hope you are well and safe in these special circumstances. But while we are all at home, maybe we can use our time differently, and it could be a good time to look at our work, to edit it, and to start to look at the sequence and maybe prepare for a portfolio review. I feel like there's a few questions you have to ask yourself before showing your work to others. Try to think about why do you choose a specific topic? What does it say about yourself? Or why do you choose photography to talk about this topic? Or maybe there's another layer you can add with another medium, maybe with text. Is text important for your subject? When I photographed Agatha, for example, I never thought that this would be like a 2-3 year long-term project. I thought I would photograph her once, and I also never thought that writing would become so important in the work. Both me and Agatha are writing alongside the images. How do you see the outcome of your work? Do you see it more as an exhibition, or do you see it more as a book? I mean, making a book or making an exhibition, it's a total different thing. We could talk about this for a long time, but it's a book, it's a very intimate way of showing your work. It's like this one-on-one relationship you create with the viewer, and people look at your images one by one. So how do people look at your images? Why do you sequence it in the way you sequence it? What's the beginning of your story, the middle and the end? Does it have a beginning, a middle and the end? Like, all those things are important to talk about. For example, you make portraits, but maybe a book full of portraits, it's a bit too much, depending on the kind of work, of course, but maybe you can use landscapes in between as a break. Or sometimes you go closer to the people, sometimes you go further, or you zoom in on a little detail, or you take a still life and you show this in between the portraits. I mean, there's many ways of telling a story. When I was in Russia, I photographed Russian people in their homes. I asked every night to spend another night in their homes, and I photographed every night my sleeping place. And actually, when I was making the book in the beginning, I never thought that I could use those beds, like those pictures of those empty beds, as breaks, as little breaks inside the book, which I did. And I mean, sometimes you do things and you don't know how you will use them, or you don't know yet entirely your direction, but it's not a problem. But it's good to be open, and a project is really gradually evolving. Not necessarily, again, like try to answer all those questions immediately, but you have to think about them. By showing your work to someone else, you're also able to, like, it's a chance to push yourself to think about many of those questions. Adding to that, I think you should do some research on who you are showing your work to. I do think it's important to know who you are showing it to, because you can ask specific questions to them. You'll ask other questions to an editor than you ask probably to a photographer. Me as a photographer, I probably share the same doubts than you have. I have the same challenges than you come across when making work. So this is easy to talk about. But like, know what you want to gain from the people you show your work to. I think this could really be very helpful. I would suggest and encourage people, if they show their work to a reviewer, to dare to share your doubts, dare to ask questions, maybe even show mistakes, or talk about the challenges you're facing. And this might be like a more interesting conversation than you would think it could be. I do think mostly a portfolio review is like a 20 minutes talk you have, or conversation you have. So I do think really don't show more than 3 bodies of work, I would say. Maybe 1 or 2 big ones are good, but of course it depends on where you stand in your career, if you want to have advice on one specific body of work, on an editing of a book, on an exhibition, so this really depends. But I would say like 1 or 2 projects, and bring maybe a dummy could be very nice, or maybe bring 20 images for each project. I like it very much if I can see prints, and I can like you put prints on the table and we can play with it. This is very nice to do. So printed work could be a good idea. But also have like a backup pile in prints or on your computer, like extra photos. For me, I like to see a lot of work. Other reviewers like to see less work, but for me, I like to start with like your selection, let's say. But I always ask to see more, because I want to understand how you think. I want to see how your choices, and to like I want to talk about why did you make this choice and not another choice. Of course, I understand that you want to show your best photos, but maybe showing single images, it's not the best idea. It's not about single images. You always show your work in a context. Mostly you show your work in a story. It's not important that an image can stand on itself. I do think it's often very important, but it's always part of something bigger. And there's one photo before and maybe one photo after. And this combination, this sequencing is also like really, really important. I think it's important to tell stories that are close to yourself. To tell stories about things that are really interesting for you and that are close to your heart. I think those will be the best stories. I often see students that are a bit confused and overwhelmed. And I think it's often because they're trying to tell this really big, interesting, but very complicated stories that are covering huge topics. And often they get lost. With a small personal story, you can also talk about a bigger topic. I think that's it for now. I really hope this was a little bit helpful. It's of course just an introduction, but I mean, I hope this could encourage you to, while you are at home, to maybe dive into your archive, look at your work, maybe make an edit of a project you haven't looked at for a while, or maybe it could motivate you to go out as soon as it's possible again, or be creative inside your home. Maybe there's many things to do as well there. I think I'm looking forward to see other portfolios. It's always nice to share work. It could be very, very, very helpful to share our work to each other. Let's enjoy it. Thank you very much, and be safe and healthy. Bye bye.